Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Scenes. This is a space where I have conversations with my friends, creatives, people in the industry, and we talk about life and other things beyond what we do on set. And today I have the opportunity to have my friend, Evans Nguyen. It's awesome to have you here. We met in the industry scenario, but I feel like we share a lot of things in common. And for me, this is a great opportunity to also share your story with the people who are connected through YouTube or through Instagram. Part of what we do many times is behind the cameras, and we rarely are in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of a challenge sometimes, but I know that it's also beneficial for all of us to learn from each other. So thank you for being here, accepting the challenge.
Thank you. It's a little bit different than what I usually do, though. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can learn from you as well.
Yeah, awesome. Earlier we went to my backyard.
Yeah.
Right there where I have my chickens.
Yeah, that was great.
And it was your first time kind of like interacting with
I
us.
was in there. You let me hold one. I held the chicken. I held a quail.
That's cool.
That was fun.
But you were telling me that, growing up, you remember your grandmother having chickens as well, and that kind of brought you back to like those kind of memories. Tell me a little bit about your background growing up and how, you would get that connection with the farming life right there.
Okay. Well, my grandma, when I was very young, she did have chickens. I'm a second generation immigrant. She's a first generation immigrant. She came here with nothing really but the clothes in her back and like $500, living off government benefits and starting off really, really small and humble, like doing anything she could to make ends meet. Chopping up fish, bagging groceries, and just so, we could get by and, taking care of my aunts and my parents. It taught me a lot about like resilience and like resolve, humility, because nothing was too lowly for her to do or too lowly for her family. And during difficult times, there might be projects that, we don't like or like whatever, though being willing to compromise because not everything's about us. And we have people to take care of.
So your family is, your grandma was originally from
Vietnam.
Okay. So that's another thing in common, that your family comes from Vietnam. I went to Vietnam when I was younger, and to me, it was such a beautiful experience, the scenery, because the part where I went to in Vietnam was like the northern part of Vietnam and the southern part of China, kind of like that border between China and Vietnam. And it was just beautiful, very unique, especially the menus.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Did you like the food?
Oh, my. It was
Really?
very interesting.
That's heartwarming. Yeah, interesting is a word. You don't have to lie to me. You can be honest.
It was delicious, but it was interesting. I would prefer not knowing what it was and just taste it.
That's good. Yeah.
So it's remarkable how you tell, the story of how, as a second generation, American coming with family background from Vietnam, I relate to that in the sense that my grandfather was also a worker in the fields since he was very little. He didn't have any school at all. My grandmother, her work was washing dishes at a hotel. And from a very humble background, my dad had 11 other siblings in total. So imagine, it's a huge household but they did the best they could, and so I also have great memories, from my grandparents and what they did. And it makes me think of like, maybe not the pressure. I saw it as a pressure at some point, but now I see it as a privilege to have that backstory and work on building wealth for the next generation, so that my kids have a different feel, like I always talk about how your roof can become their floor. Wow. And they can build from that,
Wow.
So that's a way of seeing it, it's a privilege that we have. Now, what motivated you to go into filmmaking? Was it, something that you grew up with, your family incentivizing that, or were you looking at a different path and then changing, resetting to go into something else?
What motivated me to get into film was it was about impact of stories. My family, like many, it wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They're really amazing things, and I give them all the credit and appreciation, respect. And there's things that, were damaging, and film was a vice for me to, have like a little moment of peace or like enjoyment, be introduced to ways of thinking and ideas that I might not have gotten in my house. So things like, TV, film and movies, anime, like, I'm pretty non-discriminate about storytelling. So
now, when you mention like a film as an outlet to kind of focus your energy or cope with situations growing up, I also relate to that as watching films and dreaming that one day I will probably make something similar, like playing with animation, stop motion animation. Was it also watching film something that motivated you to go into that career path?
I think it was. Honestly, I came up and honestly, I don't really idolize this person anymore. They're like Casey Neistat. And
Okay.
It just seemed really interesting and like
more of the YouTube era kind of, like
definitely.
content creators. Man, you're making me feel really old now.
No.
It's like, Mr. Beast motivated me to become a filmmaker.
No, not Mr. Beast. No, they'll like more traditionally Hayao Miyazaki, who did a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies.
Yes. Did you watch The Boy and the Heron?
I haven't.
We just watched it with my kids.
Yeah? Did you like it?
Unbelievable. Weird, as always.
Yeah, they're all weird.
My kids where? We don't understand. Like, what's happening? But it's too abstract. But I just love how he touches on like very personal and intimate topics and address them in a very artistic way. I really love the way. And, we have a writer back in my home country of Colombia, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, very well known around the world because he was a Nobel Prize of Literature. And his style was kind of like, what Studio Ghibli accomplished with their movies. It was like this magical realism, where sometimes it looks very real or sounds very real, but then he introduces things that are like, there's no way that's real. So I think that inspiration is pretty cool. Another director that inspired me a lot is Michel Gondry, who did Science of Sleep, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Be Kind, Rewind. He also has that mentality of coming up with stories that have that reality and magic elements and dreaming and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
I love it. I need to get that list from you.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's some really cool movies. So that those things inspire you, and you decided to go the traditional path of film school, correct?
I did. I went to film school for, funny enough, only a year.
Okay.
And then I moved to the business program for a year. And I give all the credit and respect to film school. I'm not here like bashing on film school. I think that it gives a lot of value towards certain people. And for me, I'm somebody who learns a little bit better, like on my feet, go out into the world, make mistakes. There's been a lot of people who've given me grace, an opportunity, and more of a hands-on approach has helped. So yes, I did go to film school for just a year.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you got to experience both ways of getting into the industry. One is by going the traditional route or going to a film school or getting formal training, and the other one is kind of like on your own, finding out, practicing hands-on. And what do you think is the best value from both of those opportunities?
I think for self-starters, like YouTube University, like the internet is great. If you have like a natural curiosity and like you're really engaged in it, then that's great. If you need the curriculum built out for you, there's a lot of value in film school and educational programs. Also for a networking perspective, not everybody likes to, go into a room and break bread with people and network. And when you're in a classroom setting, you kind of happens a little bit more naturally. So those relationships that you make in film school, hopefully you can take away. So I guess there's just pros and cons. Then again, I don't really think anything is better or worse. It's just whatever is a better fit for you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, some people have different learning styles, I think when it comes to learning from YouTube, the responsibility is more on you, on like how far you want to go and how structured you want to go and how you want to take the YouTube or the online experience into an actual physical experience, building your own networks of friends and people like-minded to create, to put yourself in different positions, not only one thing, so you can experience, and decide at the end what's the path that you want to take. Because even in the film industry, different paths that you can take. It's not like you're a filmmaker and then you do it all. You need a team, as opposed to other careers where you might be good on your own.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in the film industry, you kind of have to surround with people that can help you. But going back to your experience in school, what was the reaction of your parents and in your family circle when you're like, okay, I'm going to pursue a career in the arts?
Yeah, definitely pushback, though I don't blame them. I feel like there's going to be anybody in life. I feel like it's important to not blame them for the way they feel about something or think about something. Everybody has a different background and experience. You may not agree with it, though it's important to validate. So I validated their concerns. Something more traditional, and it's so, stereotypical too, like an engineer or a dentist or a doctor. You're going to go get your degree. It's a very high likelihood you're going to get a job. You're going to get paid a lot, and that's great. And for me, maybe this is just, I don't know, maybe a little bit of generational lifestyle inflation too. Though I think a lot of the younger generation does want to be comfortable financially, but also wants to be engaged and in love with what they do. So there's definitely some pushback that I don't blame them for. For me, it was difficult because it makes you question if you're doing the right thing. And that's where, you need to develop your own personal truth. You need to develop feelings of resolve and optimism because, there's always going to be people who, want the best for you, though may not believe in you. And I don't know, you just keep your optimism high.
Yeah. I think it's that friction of like living for what you want to do, but also the expectations that are built that are, good expectations. It's not because they expect less of you. It's, they have expectations of, like I was saying, we want our ceiling to be the floor for the next generation. And they always want the next generation to thrive and go even further. And what I do appreciate about the United States is that it's a country where there are definitely opportunities. There might not be opportunities for everybody the same way, but if you compare it to the opportunities that you can get in many of other countries, then you can definitely see that there is more opportunity here, especially if you thrive and you overcome some of the challenges that you might face in this culture. But there's always definitely that friction of like, what are the expectations around me, especially when you're young, and what is it that I really want to pursue? And it's true. Sometimes there's that fear of, what if it doesn't work? And then they're going to come back and say, we told you so,
right.
But I think that when you break that fear, because fear can really paralyze you, and can be a factor that definitely, holds you back from accomplishing the dreams that you have. So when you overcome that and you decided this is what I'm going to do, you went for 1 year and then you transitioned to business school. What was that decision? It's almost like a reset, like, oh, let me go back to something else.
It's just, being young and like, we still have so much to learn and a long way to go. We're still figuring out, what kind of people we want to be, who we want to hang out with. And, I have a better idea and clarity on those things. So just to, give a look into the thought process. For film, honestly, from a experience standpoint, I was a little bit more experience than the curriculum was providing at that point, because I had started film my junior year in high school, which is not long, just 2 years before even joining the film program, though. It felt like a little bit not valuable to me, because it was like, oh, this is how you turn on a camera. This is how this is what ISO is and stuff. And I think at that point I was looking for something that was more advanced. So that was the decision that I made to move into the business program. And it was also just drawing my experience as a really young entrepreneur, that the business aspect of film is equally as important as the art, you know. And there's a lot of really talented creatives that are poor business people, and they struggle to find a lot of financial success and comfort. And I was one of those people. I wanted to join the business program to understand process management and organization. So that was the reason why I made that shift.
Yeah, that is very interesting, because it's true. I see the polars in both sides. One where you go fully into the arts and it's a passion that it could become your hobby and you don't profit from it, and it's hard, it's
great.
Yeah. But you can also go super savvy into the business side of it and not really love it as a passion, not really love it as an art. It's just kind of like a cookie cutter, like a factory made content.
No soul. And it's so beautiful. I think that was beautifully put. The business side is very transactional, clear boundaries, clear expectations, deadlines, money in, money out, margins. And then the art side it's emotional intimacy. It's people putting their heart and their experiences into the work that they make to try to bring really engaging and valuable experiences to people. Oftentimes, I think the best films are the ones that people base on their lives, Oh, your family went through a divorce. I'm going to make a movie about it, and it's probably going to hit close to home for a lot of people. So that's so beautiful, I think, about the polarity of it. And hopefully you find some sort of beautiful compromise.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be one or the other, And many times we focus of finding balance on things, and not always you can find a balance. But like you say, compromises and willing to accept that, I went into this as fully as an artist, but I have to develop skills that will help me keep it as a career and, a way to not just make ends meet, but find fulfillment, because that phrase "make ends meet" is kind of settling.
Yeah, nobody wants to just survive. I mean, everybody wants to go one step above that and thrive, right?
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool. Now, that transition from film to business seems like it leads you into starting your own company. So how was that experience of starting a company? I mean, you were pretty young when you first started.
I was just, I'm still naive. We're all learning, and it was beautiful. I enjoyed every minute of it. The hard moments, the great ones. We started in 2016, so 2 years before I left for college. I was just a kid in high school, and I really enjoyed going out with my friends, doing foolish things, and recording little skate videos and
stuff. Skateboarder.
Exactly. I was so bad at it.
Be shy.
I was the guy who always ate concrete every single time that we would go out. Though, yeah, it started like that. I really enjoyed it. I'm like, oh, I like doing this thing. Let's make money off of it. That's what everybody tells you in life. Oh, if you enjoy something, you're never going to work a day in your life. I was just me taking advice from, some people. And we started the company, and we didn't know who we are. A lot of people, they're still figuring out who they are. I think I have a better idea of what my values are. Though back then, that was the start. We're going to be a company that makes things like videos. We did weddings. I did graduation photos. Anything that paid the bills. I seriously devalued myself doing micro budget stuff. And for the first 2-3 years of the company, that's what it was. Not a lot of direction, just winging it. Not a lot of organization. It was fun, and it was just who we were. So I give myself grace because I was just a kid. Yeah, I mean, that was the first phase of the company. And honestly, what it led us to is burnout. I was like, oh, Isn't this supposed to be the great filmmaking entrepreneur life? Why am I so tired? Why am I like so burnt out? Can't make ends meet. Got to pay for school. And you know, we've kind of modeled the growth of our company in phases. We've called it phase one. So phase one is the first 2-3 years winging it, and eventually burning out. And that's kind of what led to phase two. So phase two is introspection. What is this company on a deeper level? We need to specialize a little bit more because we're too broad. And not having identity makes you not have marketability, you know?
That's interesting. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, this is, and take it with a grain of salt, this is just my experience. A company that is good at everything is a little bit less memorable than a company is good at just one or two things. You know what I mean? Like us as a company, who we are today it's pretty clear. We have 3 pillars. So there's the production company side of things. We do narrative and like commercial. There's the rental house side of it. And there's the like wellness community side of it. Before we did weddings, we did graduation photos. People like it didn't help us grow until like the kind of clients that really value somebody who specializes, which are typically the ones that pay more too. Just, you know, if those destination weddings, they're going to go with the destination wedding company. They're not going to go with the company that does weddings and graduation photos and all this, right? They want somebody who is more experienced and is not a jack of all trades. It's good to be well-rounded. I think that's something that I don't dismiss. I think, though, that's kind of, I may have went offbeat.
No, it's awesome. It's great perspective, you know.
I don't know. This is just my experience, and there's no right or wrong way, honestly. This is just kind of what's worked for us. So, yeah, as far as the life of the company, we started really young. The first phase was winging it, led to burnout, unorganization, unclear expectations for people. And when you have unclear expectations for people, that builds resentment, you know, and like that, you know, it helped us learn a lot. So phase two was, you know, introspection. It was developing value pillars, process management. Like, how do we make this like a well-oiled machine, which is also balancing like making good art. And we took a page kind of out of corporate America, honestly. I'm not a big capitalist. I don't like, you know, it's just kind of the world that we live in, sadly. Though things like establishing a 30-hour work week. We work Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Before I worked until I like couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. I would work until like 5, 6 a.m. and wondering why like I'm so depressed and like, so that's what kind of phase two. And
it's interesting because, you know, it's also like starting the company and then having to reset.
Yeah.
You know, and some people are kind of afraid to
reinvent
to that part of the journey. And it's when we talk about cameras, when we talk about gear, sometimes things are not working. There are bugs in it, and you have to go back to factory settings and then restart the firmware and start from scratch. And all of a sudden, those bugs are addressed, they go away. But sometimes you can go and continue and get used to the bugs and live with them until it's no longer productive, it's no longer healthy. It affects your productivity and the kind of work that you do. And I think that going back to factory settings is healthy. I'm not saying that you have to reset every single time, but you know, every once in a while, you just have to go back. And even when it comes to relationships, right? I mean, sometimes when you're starting a company, not just by yourself, but you have a partnership with other people, it's kind of like a marriage, you know?
Yeah, it is. And I love the way you put it. I think that there's this saying, it's like life, this is pretty broad, though. Life sometimes is about living and dying a lot of times. You know what I mean? And think about, you know, when we were really young, like, you know, those like phases that you have in high school, like, oh, I'm going to be in my emo phase. I'm going to be in my skater phase. It's people realizing, like, having a better understanding what kind of people they want to be. And knowing what you don't want to be is equally as important as knowing what you do want to be.
Wow.
And like part of, you know, growing is trying things. We tried doing weddings. It's not for us. We tried doing graduation photos. It's not for us. We tried doing narrative. That was micro budget. It's not for us. We tried doing commercial. That was a little political. It wasn't for us. And I feel like being unafraid to reinvent helps you feel like refreshed about life. Every day's a new day. The person you are yesterday doesn't have to be the person you are today. Wake up. I'm going to make changes about my life. I'm going to be nicer to other people. I'm going to be nicer to myself. I'm going to make changes about my health. Just because you lived a certain way for 10 years of your life doesn't mean that you have to fall into that normalcy, I feel like.
And that was the beginning of Burn as a company, right? And it has a cool little logo with the bear. Like, what is the idea behind it? And how did you guys, come up with that? Because you're talking about company identity and how it also leads into your productivity and into your marketability.
Thank you. Well, that's a very kind compliment. The bear. So it's a Vietnamese moon bear. And I don't know, one, it was like an acceptance of like our background and our, who I was. Because honestly, being like a second generation immigrant or like a minority in America, for a long time, people frowned on that. You're like, oh, you're different. Oh, that's weird. Like being that kid that brings the weird snacks to lunch or like the weird lunch. Oh, why does that smell so weird? You know what I mean? I felt a lot of shame for like, for my culture, even though these are harmless cultural differences. You know what I mean? So making the moon bear, which is the Vietnamese national bear, front and center was an acceptance of who I am, self-love, and also like a bit of company culture in regards to like traditionally the industry has a lot of like prestige and like not every company, there's some like ego and stuff. So if you see this cute little bears as your company logo, then it's like kind of
it's playful, it's unique, it's different. I don't know, like you have like deity and like like maximum films and like, in like cold letters, and yours is like bear.
It's like it's supposed to be endearing because that's kind of our culture. We want to be approachable. We're big on community, not competition. There's a home we say that we're home to creatives, optimists, and all. And I really want to emphasize that. Like, there's room for tolerance. We're not always going to agree or see things the same way. That doesn't mean we can't live in solidarity. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. That's the logo.
That's fun. That's cool. Now, you did talk about the pillars. I don't know if you can talk a little bit more on like what is the stage. You talk about the phase 1, phase 2. What is phase 3, and how those pillars really kind of align and determine your trajectory and what's ahead of you and your company.
Definitely. So phase 3, we've kind of been past the reinvention, metamorphosis phase. Now it's about execution. We've developed a model and a plan. It's not perfect, though it's good enough, and we're going to try and go do it. We've developed a sales workflow, a marketing workflow, and like we've iterated so much, lived and died. This is the 50th version of the sales workflow. This is the 50th version of the marketing one. So as far as phase 3, it's about trying and failing again. Like there's going to be things that we need to adapt, and that's kind of where we're at. We're starting to bring people on payroll and salary because it helps us from an organizational standpoint keep a steady rate of productivity. There's always somebody, trying to keep our sales pipeline full for the next 6 months. There's always going to be somebody keeping our social media presence alive. And, to keep trying things and do it works and remove things that don't work. So that's kind of a little bit about phase 3, I think.
And where does a part of wellness and community fit into that as well?
Definitely. So as far as wellness, it is something that we learned from phase 1. So kind of, we were very traditional entrepreneurs. I used to work 70, 80 hours a week. And I think, again, there's no disrespect to people who decide to live that way. I understood that it wasn't for me because in my perspective / kind of our company perspective is that like sleep, diet, and exercise, these are things that enrich your interactions with people. Nobody wants to hang out with 5-hour sleep Evans. No, my family doesn't deserve that. You don't deserve that. When you show up on set, you're not your best self. You don't make your best work. And as far as like a pillar, it's also something that the industry has kind of normalized. Let's get used to doing long days. Let's get used to never seeing your family. Let's like And we're trying to create a new normal. And it's not about telling people how to live or like what to do. It's not my lane, you know?
Okay.
It's just our productions, what we do have control over, we're going to operate differently. No overnights, like 10-hour days. OT, yeah, you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid normal rates. There's been a trend of like people undervaluing themselves as like, oh, my AC rate's like $400 a day, $300 a day. Like, no, like you can do that. Though what it also does is it diminishes the value of the community. You know what I mean? There's people who, you know, were born into abundance and money. Let me rent out my mini LF for $400 a day. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help your peers and your colleagues if you do that, because you're trying to create a new normal that is unadvantageous. So that's kind of what we're doing with the wellness side of it. It's about practicing and not preaching, you know, and I think it's also just given us a lot of clarity and brought joy back into our lives. Life's better when you have 8 hours of sleep. You know, I don't know, at least in my experience.
That's great. Now, it sounds very counterculture. It sounds like you guys are fighting against the current. It really hard.
It is. And I mean, it's not a better or worse thing. Like, no, again, like I have the same amount of admiration, respect. There's no contempt here. We don't think we're better than any other company. This is just what we want to do, you know? And it's a lot different than what other people are doing. Though the client still gets what they want. And so like they don't really mind, I guess.
But not at the expense of, you know, people in their health and their relationships. In the part of wellness, it's interesting that you guys are not just focusing on good practices, you know, saved practices, but focusing on both the mental health part of the person and the environment that you create, as well as the physical health. I think that for some people, and we were talking about that earlier, it's like, I work with cameras and lights and systems, and I'm moving constantly, and I'm lifting heavy things, therefore I'm exercising. But that's not necessarily, you know, and I will be the first one to admit that I need to incorporate that in my life as somebody that, you know, could be hours on a computer, you know, and for weeks or days, and acknowledging that not as just as a personal level, but as a company policy is very interesting. And how do you guys motivate people, not only inside the company, but also when you make community, to kind of embrace those same values that you guys have?
So motivation, I think, is a really interesting thing. It's like, again, I feel like oftentimes when you try to force things on people, it does the exact opposite. You know what I mean? So it's more so about like not motivating, though finding people who already align the values, because, you know, they already kind of have a similar outlook. And it's not about making it an echo chamber either, because you could fill yourself with a room who always agree with you. Like, then you lose your ingenuity, you lose your well-rounded perspective. So, I mean, as far as motivation, I think it's like looking at international studies too. So if you look at like Finland is on paper the happiest country in the world. You know, why? You know, they've adopted a 30-hour work week. And also people who have been utilizing the 30-hour work week in Europe have reported the same, if not better, levels of productivity and higher levels of happiness with less time. There's like a saying, it's like, opinion is entertaining and data is trustworthy. And I take it with a grain of salt, though I feel like there's something really special there. You know what I mean?
I think it goes along with cultural values as well.
Yeah.
You take that 30-hour week and apply it to another culture.
Maybe it doesn't work the same.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe they get more less sad. And that's okay. And I think that's a great observation. So, I don't know. Again, I don't want to like carry, again, we don't want to carry ourselves like arrogance or attempt. It's more so about like, you know, just looking at what the world is doing and trying to take a page out.
The way I've personally experienced it from you guys, and I'm talking about you and your team, is encouragement. That you guys are accomplishing a lot of that through encouragement rather than imposing.
Yeah.
Through building relationships rather than, coming like cocky and forcing things, or like we know how it's done. The industry doesn't work, but we have the solution for the industry. But I think encouragement is a very positive approach, maybe more so than what you were saying, motivation, encouragement. Maybe that's a difference between encouraging and motivating.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
you...
think it's a great observation. I think this is amazing. I'm probably going to go home after this and introspect and learn. And that's great. And I think a big thing, I love what you said about encouragement, because I feel like that does a lot better than like pressure or like, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Because then you're trying to motivate people out of fear.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Which, I don't know. I don't feel like it's good for your mental health to be like, I'm going to do this because if I don't, this is going to happen. Instead, I'm going to do this because I want to.
Because it does the same that the social pressure, is doing for people like us. When you go and you scroll on Instagram, and that doom scrolling becomes comparing yourself with other people. Society might not be pressuring in a literal form, but indirectly you feel that pressure every day. You might be emulating the same by trying to convert people into your lifestyle, into what you want. But I feel like when you encourage them and you see the value, because you bring about a lot of value when you talk to people. It's almost like digging for the gold that is inside and then pointing out things that could be better, rather than discouraging people.
Nitpicking.
Yeah.
No, I mean, thank you. Well, that was a very kind compliment. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. We're learning, and I validate what you're saying about like social media and kind of what the world is doing. Something that's helped us a lot is the idea of like personal truth versus like what the collective norm is. And then like, if you want to go a step deeper, there's like scientific truth, which you have to also take with a grain of salt. I'm not a person who's like rooted in science, though, and essentially it's about like integrity too, because the world could be doing something in a certain way, and I sometimes like it might not be a way that aligns with your personal integrity, and that's just kind of what like the company has been. It's this culture of wellness. It's not the right way. It's not a I'm better than you, I'm going to preach and do this way. It's just a way that we're going to do because we believe in it, no matter whatever anybody else says. And it doesn't mean we don't listen to people. We validate what you're saying, though it doesn't mean we have to agree with them. You know what I mean?
The business of renting your equipment, and some people are like, oh, I have all this much of equipment, I'm going to rent it out. It's going to be a profit. And then the mentality changes. I'm going to buy more equipment as an investment. And investment turns into hoarding equipment, right?
I've been there.
We can all say we'll be guilty as charged,
Yeah.
But how do you manage, to start and maintain and continue a rental house in a market like Atlanta, for example, still be profitable, or at least not get into that mentality of like hoarding gear just for the sake of it, because it can be addictive as well.
It's fun. It's
those opening the boxes, taking
Consumerism.
that B&H Adorama packaging, smelling it. I love that.
The smell. Yeah. I love how honest you are. That's awesome. For us, I think it's really valid. Atlanta has a film industry, and our kind of decision to make a rental house was that the idea of like the lifetime value of like a customer even. So like there's this like something that we've been thinking about lately is that like, and shout out to Tang from Hoka Media or Hoka Studio, though he said something along the lines of year depreciates, the relationships appreciate if you take care of them. And having a rental house has opened up a lot of doors for us. It's introduced us to people that we would have never met. And of course, the goal is to make it profit through the rental house, though also like the relationships and hopefully a lifetime of doing business with that person like can be amazing. There might be somebody who comes to rent like a lens for us for like $50, small rental, and they might do business with us for the next 30 years. And the lifetime value of that customer, $10,000, you know?
Yeah.
So you may not see the success up front and like, oh, I'm going to buy all this equipment. My goal is to make 10K a month. It might not work out like that. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to buy all this equipment. This person, I'm going to make a bunch of relationships that make me 3 million throughout the course of my career. So I don't know. That's just kind of...
Yeah, that's interesting to see it because rental houses in general, and this is the truth, are struggling, you know, not only because they're now online networks with less impact on what they have to put up front in investment and whatnot, but gear is coming out so fast.
It is.
And depreciating so fast. And whatever camera was hip and awesome last year, now is, oh, I can't shoot on that camera because now there's the new one and it's so much better. And there's this consumerism that goes beyond, you know, the norm in what we're used to. And also how, you know, marketing is pushing the idea that if you don't have the latest and greatest, you're not the filmmaker you used to be. And you cannot accomplish that unless you have these tools. So in terms of like the rental house, there is also a lot of liabilities with it. And so building this relationship is not without the other liabilities. So I think the investment is greater, not on the gear, but on the idea of sustaining this business model in order to sustain these relationships as well.
I think so.
So what is your experience now with the rental house, the production, and also the building the community? How do you guys see the building community, which is one of the 3 pillars of your business, taking place in today's environment that is very non-communal in a way, kind of, with social media and people secluding to their little ghettos, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that that's valid. We still have a lot to learn and a long way to go. We don't have all the answers. There's a few things that we just kind of believe in and see, you know, value in. And like, as far as like the rental side of it, yeah, I think you're right. It is a depreciating asset. There is some liabilities there. And for us, it's also about like not putting all our eggs in one basket. Like, you know, like another reason why we developed the rental house side of things is also to diversify like our income. We originally started as freelancers, just kind of doing anything and everything we could to pay the bills. And, you know, during a rainy day, it's important to have different revenue streams. Like, you know, you get cameras, you get camera lenses, you get support equipment, you get vehicles, you get facilities. You know, there might be a month where production is down, camera rentals are down, somebody rents your facility, the lights are going to stay on. So if we can diversify our company's revenue across, you know, we expect 5% across 20 different things, then it's just a safety net of like insurance for us, I guess. So
yeah, that's great. And in the part of community, what are you guys currently doing, and what do you plan to do to fulfill that pillar of the company and of yourself?
Definitely. So for one, it's not gatekeeping. So we're very open about what we're doing and what's working and what's not working, because a wiser guy once told me that the best way to learn is from other people's mistakes. You know, that 70-year-old DOP, you know, or that like 50-year-old producer, maybe give them a little bit of credit. You know, you might not align with them fully, though I think that they have valuable experience. And we're going in a little bit blind, and we're learning what works and what doesn't work, and we're very open about it. We believe that there's enough abundance to go around. Even in this state of the industry right now, where things have definitely been more of a recession, which I think it could be solved through more efficient sales and like, you know, whatnot. So that is kind of a way that we look towards creating community. Also events. So we had our first open house / mixer in March, and it was amazing. It was small. Well, I guess it was big for us, though. Hopefully we can scale. It was like 70 people, 80 people or something. Yeah. So hopefully.
Which is a great turnout for an industry where people are constantly looking to fill out the bookings and the gaps. And the fact that, hey, you're here, either you guys are not working at all, or this is, a great opportunity to network and to start something unique.
Thank you. So I hope we can do more things like that, I guess.
That's great. As a young person, you're in your early 20s, as an entrepreneur, as a filmmaker, what are the kind of pressures that you face? And sometimes we talk about, in this DNA, you can have your Instagram or your TikTok account and make so much money when you're 18, when you're 20. And then there's this pressure of like, this is the new norm. And then you look back at other generations and it's like so different, and like there's so much pressure to be young and to be an entrepreneur these days.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So for us, pressure was something that I really struggled with. Oh, I'm not doing this. Somebody is younger than me and they have this. And I think it's something that once you identify, you can unlearn. You know what I mean? Because it's like the idea of like not letting things affect you. You know what I mean? Because it's there, though you don't have to give it like the time of day. And I think what helped me unlearn it is recognizing that this person might be 18 years old and a millionaire, though I wasn't born in their life circumstances. You know what I mean? Like, nobody in life had the same parents you did, went to the same school, had the same struggles. So who are you in competition with? You know? I don't know. That has helped me a lot. Whenever I feel like I'm behind in life or something, just think about like, there's nobody who, has been in these same exact circumstances as you. So why are you trying to, compare? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's also a matter of like, what lifestyle do you want to choose and decide?
Yeah.
Because sometimes this lavish lifestyle comes at an expense on other things that are also important in life. And you just have to make a choice, of what is important to you. But one thing that I do appreciate is that you say, I don't have all the answers. It is better to be honest than say, oh no, I have experience. I have. But with that as a context, if you look back at that young Evans at 17 and starting a company, what are kind of like some of the advice? Because you're gonna grow up later, you're gonna keep doing mistakes, and you're gonna learn from them. And 20 years from now, you're going to look at this interview and say, oh, I would have told that guy some wisdom on this and that. But at this stage where you are, so young, starting this company, you have people in your team and people around your team that are depending on you and the decisions that you make. What would you tell the 17-year-old Evans that was starting the company in the first place? These are kind of like the things that you learned so far.
When you're living in alignment with what you really care about, you don't feel the pressure. Don't be arrogant. You know what I mean? I thought I knew everything back then. I was a young, little arrogant kid. And oftentimes the people who think they know everything are the least intelligent people you'll meet. And the idea of being a student for life has like helped me a lot. And I think that's part of also loving yourself and others, being willing to be open and learn, because like my goal is to be 1% better tomorrow. How can I treat Carlos better tomorrow? How can I be better to myself? I don't know. I think that's what I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for your honesty. I think what I appreciate most of this conversation is your honesty, your openness, your willingness to accept that you're still growing and learning. And I think a common theme in our conversation is every once in a while you just have to push the reset button. It can be at work, it can be on relationships, it can be with even your career. Go back to those factory settings and improve from that. What you said that your guys are focusing now, instead of doing a bunch of stuff, just pursuing particular specific projects. What are the kind of projects that you look into that you want to make moving forward?
I think that one is, and again, it's about having, goals, to also knowing when you have to compromise. Because we've adopted a process in terms of qualifying the projects that we work on. And then we qualify for things like, one, the character of the agency or, production that we're working with. Because like I've gotten to the point too where I'm not willing, and this was a very difficult thing, especially if you're experiencing financial hardship. Though before, even if a production had money and they were, they're irritable, they were dishonest and stuff, I wouldn't do business with them. Now I'm not willing to compromise that. It's like, we will qualify people for their character, their resources and competence. Yes, we're going to shift out, some productions to also we're going to be in solidarity with really high value partners and companies who take care of us. So I guess as far as the projects that we like to work on, we like to work on ones that have like a social impact, hopefully in like a very wholesome way. And also for a bottom line perspective, we also usually 10 to 15,000 is like a good place to start. And that's something that we compromised before. Though it's not, anything less than that doesn't really help us scale, so.
That's great. That's awesome, because I think that you definitely do attract what you're looking for in terms of like jobs, but in terms of people that are suitable, a good fit for that project. Not everybody is a good fit, maybe somebody's great for another type of project, and there's plenty of projects out there. Even in the low tide, there's plenty of projects out there. But the fact that you guys are focusing and deciding, and maybe people watching this conversation do align with the way you think and will want to reach out, want to know more about you, about your team, about the company, where can people find you and connect with you guys?
Thank you. They can find us on social media at Bairn, or BYBAIRN.com.
And that's also part of where you have the rental side and the production side, but also where you guys are going to, as well as in your social media, publish opportunities for networking and for meeting other like-minded individuals and people in the industry as well. Yeah. Right? So I'm going to put the links here somewhere in the graphics. Thank you. Awesome, man. But I do appreciate this conversation. I think we got to know more about each other, and that's a great value, and I think it will also be great value for people. So if you find value in these conversations, I encourage you to share it, to tell other people about the stories, and I'll see you in the next episode of Beyond the Scenes.